So have you noticed that sometimes things don't quite turn out in life the way we expect? Anybody notice that? Yeah. Take Gail, for example. One Monday night during youth chorus rehearsal in the West Midlands, she gazed out over the tenor section and she spotted me. And she started talking to me, and she found out I was a trainee solicitor. And she thought, now there's a man with prospects. And then God said, no, that's not how life is going to turn out. Life doesn't always turn out as we expected. We have our own grand plans, don't we? The career that we're going to have, the family that we're going to have, the places we're going to live, all sorts of things. And we think, this is what's going to happen. We've got it all worked out. But then life doesn't turn out the way that we think. Jesus' grand entrance into Jerusalem doesn't turn out the way that anyone expected. He came into Jerusalem with all the crowds around him, people waving palm branches and shouting, Hosanna. And the people in Jerusalem thought, we know how this is supposed to turn out. But as we look at this story more deeply, as we look at this event more deeply, through the eyes of three groups of people who were there that day, the crowd, the religious leaders, and the disciples, they all thought they knew how Jesus' entrance into the city should turn out. But it didn't turn out just as they expected. They kind of had the right ideas, but they missed the truth of it. Is there anybody here this morning in a football shirt? No? How come you're not wearing a football shirt today, John T? Can you come and pretend to be wearing a football shirt? Is that all right? Just come and stand here for me, okay? So John T's going to represent the crowd, okay? This is the crowd. Woo! A great crowd, absolutely. The best crowd ever, yeah. Now, I'm pretty sure that if someone was to parade through Maidenhead Town Centre today and people started waving palm branches at them and shouting Hosanna, we might think it was a bit weird. Is that right? Not something that happens in Maidenhead Town Centre every day. But in first century Jerusalem, this kind of celebration, this kind of parade wasn't that weird. In fact, I was reading something this morning that suggested because people were gathering in Jerusalem for the Passover festival, the Romans might well have had their own celebration, their own parade like this, where somebody in charge, maybe one of the Roman centurions or whatever, would ride into Jerusalem on a horse and expect people to celebrate him in the same way. And whether it actually happened on that first Palm Sunday, it had certainly happened in Jerusalem before. It used to happen when a national hero returned home or when a conquering king came into the city. People would often rush to the entrance that he was entering in on and wave palm branches. The palm branch is the national sign of victory for the Jewish community. And they would shout, Hosanna, which means save us now. So there's actually nothing strange in a crowd in Jerusalem shouting and chanting, save us, save us. But they were shouting that and they were waving their palm branches from a particular perspective. The crowd had the particular perspective of, what's in it for me? As they waved their palm branches and as they shouted their hosannas, they weren't looking for a saviour from their sin. They were looking for a local, all-conquering hero who would get the Romans off their backs. And they were thinking to themselves, this Jesus, this man who raised Lazarus from the dead, well, he might just be the one to do it. So when they heard that he was outside the city with an entourage all ready to go, they got excited. This is it, they thought to themselves. And so they grabbed their palm branches and they start singing, Hosanna, God, save us now. And yet they really didn't know what they were doing. Because as the video reminded us, there were many in the crowd who were actually asking, well, who is this? They didn't really know him at all. But they did think, well, maybe he's their meal ticket out of foreign occupation. If he can raise people from the dead, then he can defeat the Romans on his own. They were just looking for Jesus to do what they wanted. So they shouted, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. But when they realized that he wasn't going to do what they wanted, they soon changed their tune. Soon, instead of shouting, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, they were shouting, take him away, crucify him. Their self-centeredness led them to miss out on the hope that Jesus was bringing them. If I'm honest, I can be self-centered sometimes. What about you? What about you? See, the problem is when we're self-centered, then we can be deceived. We can't see what we really need because all we're focused on is what we really want. And we can miss the hope that we need, the hope that comes through the resurrected Jesus. The second group that were there that day was the religious leaders. So we got somebody in uniform who can represent the leaders. Rob, this is your second volunteering of the day. This is amazing. Let's give Rob a round of applause. Many and varied are the responsibilities of the Corps Sergeant Major. The religious leaders were there. Now, they knew the prophecy. They knew their scriptures, and so they should have known that this grand entrance was coming. Daniel had prophesied it, and as we reminded ourselves in the video, Zechariah had told them the Messiah would come into Jerusalem riding on the colt of a donkey. So how on earth did they miss this? This was so obvious that Jesus was pointing to this prophecy. They missed it because their perspective was, we're in control, not Jesus. We're in control, not Jesus. See, the religious leaders had it good in Jesus' day. The Romans let them do pretty much what they wanted. They could pass whatever laws they wanted. They could enforce those laws in however they wanted. They had control over the Jewish people, and the Romans pretty much let them get on with it. But they were scared of Jesus. They were scared he was going to mess it all up for them. They thought maybe he was going to overthrow the Romans and maybe then even themselves and stage a political coup. And they didn't want that. They wanted to be in control. They were thinking, we're not about to let our power go. They knew hope was coming. They knew hope had been prophesied through the scriptures. They knew hope would be found in the Messiah when he came. But they missed him when he came. And they missed the hope that he brought because they had unteachable hearts. I don't know about you, but I can be unteachable sometimes. I want to be in control of my own destiny. Actually, isn't that the problem of humanity since the fall? Why did Adam and Eve sin? Because they wanted to be in control. They wanted to be God. They'd been persuaded that God would let them be God. And that's been the problem for humanity ever since. I want to be in control of my own destiny. The problem is that when we insist on being in control, when we fail to surrender to God and his sovereignty, then our hard hearts will miss the hope that Jesus brings. The third group that were in Jerusalem that day were the disciples, Jesus' followers. We can have anybody to be a volunteer to be Jesus' follower. Who wants to volunteer? Come on, one of you must be Jesus' followers. Come on, Maddie, you were trying to persuade the girls to do it, so you can come and do it. These guys had walked with Jesus every day for 3 years. They had been with Jesus. They'd heard everything that he'd had to say and to teach. They'd made a commitment right at the outset of Jesus' ministry to follow his teachings, to look at his work, to join in with his work. But up until this point, Jesus had been holding them back. Just think about some of the things that Jesus did and then what he said to his disciples. When he healed the lepers, he told them not to tell anyone. When he healed Jairus' daughter, he said, don't talk about it, keep quiet about it. Even when he was transfigured on the mountain, he told Peter, James and John not to talk about what they'd seen. Can you imagine having to keep quiet about the transfiguration? But now they come walking into Jerusalem with Jesus, surrounded by an excited crowd waving palm branches and shouting, Hosanna. And so they were excited. Then they hear the religious leaders say to Jesus, tell the crowd to stop celebrating. Tell the crowd to stop celebrating. What do you think they were expecting Jesus to reply to that? Yeah, you're right. Maybe we should keep quiet. Maybe we should stop talking about it. But this time, Jesus says, no, let them carry on singing my praises. Because if they don't, then the rocks and the stones are going to cry out instead. They must have thought, well, then this is it. This is the moment. Jesus is finally going to be crowned king. He's kept us quiet to this point. He's kept us under the radar. But now he's making this grand entrance into the city, and he wants a fuss. He wants us to celebrate. He wants us to make a noise. He wants everyone to know who he is. This must be the moment he's going to be crowned king. But they were missing the big picture. Jesus, of course, had tried to tell them. If you have a look at Matthew chapter 16, it says, from that time on, Jesus began telling his followers that he must go to Jerusalem, where the Jewish elders, the leading priests and the teachers of the law would make him suffer many things. He told them he must be killed and then be raised from the dead on the third day. He told them this, and yet still the disciples expected a jeweled crown. But the crown that Jesus was going to wear had no jewels. Instead, it had thorns. This is what we wanted, Jesus, for you to come into your kingdom. But the disciples' perspective was, but not like this. Not like this. Have you ever said that to God? I want this. I want to follow your will for my life, but not like this, Jesus. I want to be a fruitful Christian. I want to live the holy life. But I don't always want to go through what's necessary to grow into those character traits that Jesus wants from us. What about you? You see, when we shun the difficulties in our lives, when we turn away from our trials and our sorrows, when instead we head for the easy life and plead with God, not like this, not like this, then we miss the hope that comes from walking with Jesus through them together. Give our volunteers a round of applause. Well, kind of volunteers. The question that I have for each of us this morning as we celebrate this Palm Sunday is, will you let Jesus make a grand entrance into your life and change your perspective? You see, your perspective is your reality. It's the way that you view the world. And that perspective is molded in all sorts of different ways. Lots of things contribute to the way that you interpret everything that happens to you. Your background, your childhood, your education, your travel, your relationships, all sorts of things mold your perspective on life. But our perspective should develop as our relationship with Jesus deepens. As Jesus gives us more and more resurrection hope, how we view life and how we view the world around us should be transformed. The disciples didn't get it. On Palm Sunday, they didn't get it. But John tells us that when they looked back later, after the events of Easter, when they looked back on Palm Sunday, then they got it. John 12, verse 16 says, the followers of Jesus did not understand this at first. But after Jesus was raised to glory, they remembered that this had been written about him and that they had done these things to him. Suddenly, after they'd been through Easter together, they've got it. Once Jesus had completed his mission on earth, the disciples finally understood. Their perspectives changed as their relationship with Jesus deepened. Sometimes my perspective is, what's in it for me? Sometimes my perspective is, I'm in control and I'm not willing to let you have control, Jesus. Sometimes my perspective is, come on, Lord, not like this, not like this. But when my relationship with Jesus deepens, my perspective grows and develops. As I'm filled with resurrection hope, the way that I view the world is framed with faith. So my question today is, will you allow Jesus to enter your life today? It may be that you're going to allow Jesus to enter into your life for the very first time today. And you may look around and say, well, no, clearly all these people around me are Christians. They've been coming to church for many years. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as allowing Jesus into your life. So maybe this will be the first time that you do that today. Or maybe at the beginning of this Holy Week, you want to allow Jesus to enter your life again for the umpteenth time, but in a new way, in a way that deepens your relationship with him, in a way that changes your perspective on life. I have a warning that if you do this, he may not do what you expect. He may not do what you expect. I'm standing here today because he did what I didn't expect. But I have got a promise as well that he'll give you all the hope that you need. If you allow him into your life today, he will give you all the hope that you need. You may well be facing a challenge in your life right now. In fact, as your pastor, I know that there are a number of you facing challenges in your life right now. But Jesus will bring you the hope that you need. He'll make a grand entrance into your life. And the only thing that you have to do today is to invite him in. Invite him in. We're going to sing the prayer chorus through a couple of times. Very, very easy. You may even be able to close your eyes and sing these words. Enter, enter right into my heart, Lord. Enter now. Enter now. Enter, enter right into my heart, Lord. Enter now. Enter now. Let's sing this through as a response this morning.
For more positive, practical Bible teaching from Captain Rob Westwood-Payne, search for the Battlefield podcast Snake Tree and follow the relevant links.